Garrett, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Blessed, my friend. I am
I'd
blessed.
love to hear it.
Okay, we got a lot of work to do, uh, especially with webinar. Have you
Yep.
done a business plan before?
Yeah, no, I've been in the business for some time already. I just I like to um gain new insight and different perspectives. So yeah, I've been with Marcus and Millichap, and then boutique commercial firm and now with Lee and Associates. So it's good
Okay,
to
great.
stay, sharpen your skill set.
Are you doing commercial or residential real estate now?
I'm doing commercial.
Now, look, you're working with Millishap right now, correct?
No, I'm with Lean Associates. I started my commercial career in New York City, and then I did telecom, and now then like 7 years ago, I was at Marcus on a hospitality team, and then I developed a hospitality team for Apex Capital, and now I'm at Lean Associates.
Good. All right. At the end of the day, we do need to know where we're going with this. And what I say is, when we're developing a business plan, we have to have
Hmm.
clarity of purpose. You know, if you don't have clarity of purpose, you don't have a clear sense of direction where you're heading with this. You know, I keep hearing agents saying, look, I've been working until 11 o'clock at night, looking at the MLS, looking for properties, etc. But at the end of the day, that shouldn't be.
Right,
If that's happening to an agent, it's because they don't have a schedule. They don't know where they're going with this. They're just reacting to real estate. And if you want to make money in real estate, you have to be extremely dedicated. And if you come from Millichap, you know that these people are on the phone all the time. You know that these
right,
people are prospecting all the time. You know that these people are going out and talking to people about buying or selling real estate all the time. But as residential real estate agents, as residential real estate agents, we just don't do it. Most of them, 95, 96% of them do not do it. Now, today's webinar is going to be simple. Is how do you go ahead and develop a business plan that is not complicated? It cannot be complicated, okay? It's got to be relatively easy. And that's what we have. However, you do need to know that we're going to divide the plan into 5 different parts. Part number one is, hey, what kind of production did you have this year? In other words, how many sales did you make in 24? How many rentals? Now, as a real estate broker, I'm saying to you, rentals is a waste of time unless you've got the listing. Hey, I get agents telling me, oh, I rented 8 properties last month. I made over $12,000, $15,000 renting properties. But they also say I went crazy renting that many properties. When you can make $10,000, $15,000 in a regular real estate sales. The real estate business, unless you have a listing, or maybe somebody wants to rent a whole building, that's the exception. Or I want to rent a $30,000, $40,000 a month home, that's an exception, then I'll work them. But to rent a $2,000, $2,500 a month, and showing properties as if they were buying it, in my opinion, is a waste of time. Gear yourself up to sales. But anyhow, how many sales did you make? How many renters? Also, it's important, how many offers? I get a lot of agents telling me, Raul, I presented offers after offers and they don't get accepted. Then, hey, give me a call. I'll put my phone number up at the end. And let's talk about what's happening with your offers that are not being accepted. There are many reasons for that. Okay, so we need to talk about. Part number two is what is your production goals for the next year? Now, keep in mind, your production goals have to be realistic. If you only sold 4 houses this year, don't come telling me you're gonna sell 50 next year, because it's just not going to happen. So your goals have to be matched to your expenses, and they have to be matched to what you want extra for next year. So it's gotta be something realistic, something that is attainable. And then we have to talk about, hey, what is it that we're gonna do to make this happen? Okay? So if your expenses are 75,000 a year and your commission average is X, how many properties must you sell? How many properties must you sell a year? So we need to look at this. This is one of the things that we're gonna be looking at. And then schedule. What are you doing with your time? That's just as important as production. What are you doing with your time? Are you wasting your time? Or is your time productive? And then what are your challenges? I have personal challenges. How am I going to overcome those challenges? But first, you have to know what your challenges are. So these are the 5 different parts of the business plan that we're going to be addressing today. Okay? So, first of all, we have to look at what are our production and expenses for this year. Now, I don't want you to be down to the penny. I don't want this to be complex. If you have an accounting background, you'll make it complex. I came in this morning and I said to my bookkeeping team, I said, listen, I want you to develop for me, what was our income and expenses for each of the companies. And, but no, that's gonna take so long because we have to do this, we have to do that. I don't want you to tell me that our expenses are to the penny. Just tell me how much money came in and basically how much money came out, and that's it. That's all I need to know. And this is what you need to know. Because if you know what your income is, and if you know what your expenses are, then you know how many deals you need to pull this year. And that gives you a clear sense of direction. That gives you clarity of purpose. So how much money did you make this year? How much money did it go for business expenses? Remember, we have 2 types of expenses. We have our business expenses, which are your broker fees, your car insurance, your car payment, advertising, clothing. I just have a list. You may add additional expenses that you may have, like flyers, like social media postings, advertising, telephone, whatever you add. These are your business expenses. The phone alone is like $600-700 a year. So that is not even listed here. But you need to put it up. But at least I'm giving you a list of expenses that you need to consider. And then you have to have your personal expenses. How much you pay for rent? How much do you pay for mortgage? All your utilities, your insurance. If you have an extra car, how about you go out for some sort of entertainment? Those are personal expenses. Now we have your business expense and your personal expense. That's your total expenses. We're gonna subtract that from your income that you earn, and that's gonna give you your net income. Now, folks, we do not work to pay expenses. But you need to know a minimum amount of income, to crack the nut, okay? That's basically how it goes. So the next question that we need to ask ourselves, hey, how many deals do I need to pull this coming year to cover my expenses? You need to know what your average commission check is. Any commission right now in Miami-Dade County, I would say it's between $12,000 to $20,000. Go for the lowest, go for 12,000, 10,000. That's your average commission. So if you take your total expenses and you divide them by your average commission check, what is it gonna get? If it's not the number of transactions that you need to make to cover your expenses, business and personal. I'll give you an example. Your expenses for this year is 75,000. Your average commission is 10,000. You need to pull 7.5 deals, 8 deals, 7 or 8 deals to cover your expenses. But do we work to cover expenses only? I don't. I don't expect you to do the same. Matter of fact, I urge you to look forward to making more money so you can have a good time. All right, so we need to have a good time. Now, before we get there, we need to also understand where is our money coming from? Are they coming from buyer sales or are they coming from listings sold? If you've got too many buyer sales and very little listings sold, guess what? We need to work on listings. And our webinars are how to sell real estate at high level. Not these salad of trainings that we're getting from everywhere, which they're important. They're important, but why do I need to know all the projects are available on paying 6% commission when I don't know how to get a buyer to sell them one of those units? First, I have to learn how to get a buyer. First, I know how to learn how to price a property. How do I list a property? I need to learn those things. If you've got too many listing and 0 buyer sales, something is going on as well. If you have a mix of buyers and listings, how can we increase those? Take it to the next level. Okay, so this is important to understand where our business is coming from. To either get better at it or increase the number of sales that we get. This is objective, folks. This is very objective. How much money am I making? How much money am I spending? And where's my business coming from? Now, I know that number already. Hey, I need to make 7, 8 deals a year just to pay my expenses. But how much more money do I want to make this coming year? Now, how much more money has to have a purpose? Has to have a reasonable purpose. How am I going to use this money for next year? As a personal example, my house is over 100 years old, and I wanted to go ahead and fix my electricity because it's old electrical. So I had to change all the electrical cables, all the panels. And, you know, I spend a lot of money getting it fixed. That's one of the things that I wanted money for. Also, I wanted to buy a car, an additional car, because I wanted to buy a pop-up trailer. So I bought the pop-up trailer, I bought the car, and, you know, but I had that vision in mind, and I had a picture of the pop-up trailer on my office, and I had a picture of the car that I wanted, that I was able to pull it, and that's what I got. And that's what I wanted to use the money for. I also used the money for other things that I wanted to do. But I'm just giving you an example of you have to have a purpose. And that purpose has to have a price. How much money am I going to be spending on what I want? How much does it cost? That's important. Because we already took care of what we need to get in order to living expenses, living business expenses. Now I want to enjoy myself. So in addition to what I need to cover my expenses with, you know, how much more money do I need to make? how many more deals do I need to make? If I need $20,000, $30,000, then it's another 3 deals. So instead of making 7 or 8, I need to make 10 or 11. So I can cover what I want. It could be saving money, put it in your savings account, put it into your retirement account, paying the kids' college, paying off a loan, anything you want. But you have to have that clarity of purpose in order for this to make sense. If not, it doesn't make sense. Now, okay, this is what I need. The question is, what am I gonna do to make this happen? And remember, and I've said in many workshops, we have to do what we don't want to do in order to get what we want. And what is it that we don't want to do? Basically, talk to people. Talk to people. And what do I talk to people about? Buying and selling real estate. Having a schedule. Sticking to the schedule. Learning my skills. Because at the end of the day, I have my license for X number of years, but I don't need to learn anymore. We always have to be lifelong learners. So again, as we develop a business plan, we're gonna know what we're gonna go do based on what we've done, based on what we want. Let's consider the challenges. I'll give you my challenges. Walking to the office and I have to start putting out fires. So-and-so have a problem, so-and-so called with this situation, I have to deal with it. Those are challenges that personally, I don't need to handle them right then and there. I can handle them 3 hours from now, and they still be valid. Just yesterday, this lady said, I need to resolve this problem today. I can't help you today, but I can help you tomorrow after 1 o'clock. Okay, she said, let's do it at 1 o'clock. But what happens is that we get caught up on, okay, you're gonna do it today, all right, let me see what we can do today. No, I don't have time to do it today. You can do it tomorrow at such and such a time. People sometimes say, I don't have time to go to the webinar because I'm showing property. Well, what if you have 10 clients that wanted to see property from 11:30 to 12:30, what would you do? Oh, I would schedule them. Some I would do earlier, some I would do later, some I would do from 11:30 to 12:30. Well, you've got to devote time to developing your skills. That's just as important as showing property, if not more. Okay? So give answers to your challenges. Give answers to your disruptions. Agents calling you. Social media postings. Phone calls while you're prospecting for business. You know, that's something that my phone has gone off already 4 times since I've been talking to you guys. If I've been prospecting, what do you think? I'm gonna be answering 4 phone calls? No. And if they interfere with my phone calling, guess what? I gotta use another phone. And that's part of my disruptions, which I'm sharing with you. So what did I do to solve the problem? Hey, I went ahead and dedicated a space at home, and that's my office. All my prospecting calls are gonna come out of that office in the morning, which is when I have the highest level of energy. It's gonna be in the morning. And then I'll come to the office and I'll deal with the problems that have cost me a lot of money. Okay? What else do we need to do? We need to develop our skills. And folks, no matter how long you've been in the business, we don't know it all. I think one of the agents I was talking to this morning, right here before we started, he said, Raul, I've been in the business for a long time, but I always like to get, a different take. So he is a lifelong learner. He recognizes that he knows, but you know what? You can always know a little more. Like, for example, I went to a seminar about 3 weeks ago. Basically, what they talked about, I knew. Except a conversation that I had with one of the top producers that taught me how to deal with disruptions, how he is dealing with disruptions. And I asked him, because he sells 60, 70 properties a year. He's a high producing guy. I said, why don't you become a coach? He says, no, I don't want that. I was a coach before. He's taking time away from my business. So it was worth it. The 3 days that I spent there was worth it just to listen to him say that. So when we develop a schedule, it has to be functional. It has to be something that works. And all I'm saying to you is, you got a prospect. But that's the old boy role. I post in social media. Social media is social. That's like an advertising, like placing an ad in the paper in the old times. Okay, so now you place an ad in social media. No difference. You've got to talk to people. Okay? You've got to learn how to handle objections. In the last 2 webinars, we were dealing with objections. On the first one, we dealt with the concept of what an objection is, what a condition is, how do we look at these, when do we answer them? And then on the last webinar that we had answers to 20 different objections. There are about 40. We had time to do 20 of them. 20 common objections. They've been around for the last, at least in my case, since 1978, when I got my broker's license. So there's nothing new. There's same objections. No new objections have come up. Same old. And you have to give it an answer. I had the scripts, and I'm an advocate of you don't have to say it verbatim, but the content has to be there. The content has to be there. In other words, I could say something like, the script would say something like, when do you plan on moving? Okay, that's what the script says. But I could ask it my own way. Hey, when do you plan to be down in Georgia? Or have you thought about getting a new place? Or is this place getting too big for you guys since the kids are gone? Yeah, they're getting kind of big. It's getting kind of big, the place, and it's a lot of work for us. So have you thought about getting something smaller? Sometimes a question is developed through a series of questions. So you have to learn how to handle those objections. You have to feel comfortable in those conversations. Okay? And that's a skill that you develop. So you gotta put down on your business plan for next year some of your strengths and some of your weaknesses. Your strengths, you're gonna get stronger. And your weaknesses, you start to eliminate them. Okay? So what are your challenges gonna be for next year? Write them down. We all have different challenges. We all have different challenges. Tracking your numbers. And like I said, tracking, when I'm on the phone, talking to people, I make $565 an hour. I gotta get on the phone. How much do you make an hour? Do you have any idea how much do you make an hour? How many people do you talk an hour? Oh, I don't know, Raul. We had a conversation with an agent, just I believe in this webinar as well this morning, with us here, just saying, you talk to 2 people a day, and at the end of the month, you talk to 40 people. And that sounded like a lot of people we talked to. But you see, if you really know your numbers, it takes me 50 to 60 people to get somebody who says, hey, you know what? I have considered selling my property. I had to talk to 50, 60 people. 60 to 80 people before they say, you know what? Come out to an appointment. 80 to 100 people before I actually get to the appointment, to the listing presentation. Why? Because they cancel. They cancel. And then 100 to 120 people before I get the listing. So if you talk to 40 people a month, it takes you 3 months before you get a listing, you probably go broke. And that's why we have a revolving door in this business. This is why the average production for a real estate agent, according to the National Association of Realtors, is 4 deals a year. And it's basically because, there's a series of things that are going wrong with this. One of the things is we don't plan. We don't have a business plan. And listen, this business plan is very simple. Very, very simple. And we don't track our numbers. How about our daily schedule? What is it gonna look like? What are we gonna be doing on a daily basis? Doing whatever comes up? This is my schedule is actually a little harder than this. I get up at 4, I got up at 4 this morning. Okay? You have to get into the habit of going to work every morning at the same time as if you were employed. Now, if you work from home, then at X time you have to sit in front of your computer. It's not whenever you get there. You have to warm up if you're gonna be calling expired listings, or if you're gonna be calling just listed, just sold, or you're gonna be calling for sale by owners. Those are different conversations that you're gonna have. You gotta warm up. Devote a little time to warming up. And why am I calling in the morning? Because that's when you have the most energy. So starting 8:30, 9 AM, hey, 2 or 3 hours a day, you gotta talk to people. You talk to people that you do not know. Not people that you know. That's later on. That's your follow-up work. Okay, people that you do not know. And what are you gonna talk to them about? Very simple. Do you wanna buy or sell real estate, or do you know someone who does? Excuse me, that's it. That's the conversation. Now, how many people should you talk an hour? People say 10. I can only do 6 or 7. And I thought I was doing something wrong because I was getting business, we're talking to 6 or 7. Then I heard this top producer, he said, honestly, I don't need to talk to that many people to get business. That coupled with an attorney that said to me once, Raul, normally when a real estate agent calls me, I hang up on them. And with you, I've been talking for half hour. Why do you think that is? Lunch, basically at the same time. If you had a job, a 9 to 5 job, wouldn't you be required to take lunch at a certain time? Take a break at a certain time, get to work at a certain time, and leave at a certain time. So why don't you do that with your business? You'll become more productive if you stick to your schedule. Then in the afternoon, you can make your follow-up calls. We're gonna have a webinar on how to do follow-up call. What is the importance of follow-up? So an hour and a half. Top producers don't have more than 2 or 3 hot leads at any one time. This thing about, oh, I've got thousands of leads, you got nothing. You got nothing. Who do they know? Do they know you? Do you know them? You know, just compiling a list for the sake of having a list doesn't do any good. Oh, I send emails. I send text messages. I gotta talk to them. Pre-listing packages, how many of you actually use a pre-listing package? You wanna answer that? How many of you answer? How many of you use it? A lot of people say, oh my God, if I use a pre-listing package, I wanna tell them everything that I wanna do. Of course you are. People are paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in commissions that you think they deserve to know. And if you're that good, it doesn't really matter. Because what you wanna do is sit at a listing presentation to get the listing or not sit at all. Because they're not worth it, your time. So sometimes put a little longer, I put here an hour and a half, sometimes it takes me 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, maybe a little longer. To prepare it. And then, of course, in the afternoons, I go to my listing presentations. If I don't have listing presentations, I go to showings. And if I don't have showings or listing presentations, I go preview property. Because that's gonna give me knowledge. Knowledge that I'm gonna share with those folks that I talk to that I don't know them. Because again, what do a seller wanna know? Hey, how much is my house worth? What are you gonna do to sell it? How much money am I gonna get at closing? What are you gonna do to sell it? How long is it gonna take you? What's the inventory out there? Maybe they may ask you that question. But when you start talking out of knowledge, people will listen. We had one of the webinars where we showed that 80% of the reason why you're chosen as 80% of the time, 80% of the people that they choose a real estate agent based on 2 factors: knowledge of a neighborhood and reputation. Now, if you have knowledge of the neighborhood, and folks, you know, you can get that in no time, MLS, if you get knowledge of the neighborhood and you talk to people with knowledge, you're going to create an instant reputation. And you have good chance of making a deal. Same way with a buyer. If they know that you know, they want to stick with you. So again, no listing presentations, no showings, go preview property. And remember, the business plan is something that is work in progress. On December 5th, we're gonna have our next webinar, and it's gonna deal with how to implement the business plan using 90-day cycles. Because we have 4 cycles in a year. We have 4 chances of adjusting our business plan in a year. If we're not making enough, what do I need to do to make more? If I'm making more than I thought, what can I do to make more than more? So again, it's work in progress. So we have a month and a half practice, or a month and a week, to be able to develop your business plan. Start working on that. Start getting your expenses down. Not rocket science. Income down. Where's your income? Where is your income? Where is your income coming from? Then what do I want to do next year? I had in my house posted the camper that I wanted, how I wanted it. I needed it with a pop-up on the side. It was a pop-up camper with a slide out. That's what I wanted. That's what I visualized. I had a picture of that. I had a picture of a car that could pull it. I didn't want to get a regular camper. That wasn't my idea. Something simple. And when the deal came up, I knew exactly what I wanted. I didn't have to think about it. I had the money to buy it and I bought it. And then every quarter, you can adjust and add more things if you want to. Remember, we just don't work to pay bills. I mean, that's necessary. We work to enjoy ourselves. Okay? So I don't want to continue giving you more, this is a short webinar today, but I do want to take I want to know you, if you have any questions or any comments of what we've talked about today. I
What
wanna thank
CRM do you like?
Vice Agent,
What CRM do you like?
Wise Agent. That's the CRM that I use. Now, I'm not in my office, but I can show you cards that I have for people that I need to talk to tomorrow and the next day. CRMs are great for a lot of the contacts that I have to store in there. But if I want to be talking to three or four people, I don't need to put them in a CRM. I'm referring to follow-up calls. I put them on a business card the size of my phone. And beside it, how much commission can I make out of that deal? That's the motivator in itself. You have the name, the address, some features of the house, some notes, and then when did I get this lead? When am I gonna throw it away? And how much commission can I make here? And it's interesting because there's an agent that said, he said, what is the most important tool that you have in the real estate business? And everybody was talking about CRMs, rapid dialers, what have you. And he says, the most important tool that you have in real estate is a garbage can. Okay? And people started, oh, what do you mean a lot of the leads that we get are not worth following up. We throw them away. We have to learn to throw them away. Okay? And only work with those leads are gonna do, if it's a buyer, hey, 2 or 3 showings, 2 or 3 outings, that's about it. If not, they're not worth it. We had a webinar like that maybe a month and a half ago on how to deal with a buyer and have them placed a good offer. An offer that has very high probability of getting accepted in 2 or 3 showings. That's it, 7 to 10 days. I'm not gonna walk around with a buyer for months. Last couple of webinars we had was on how to deal with objections. One, we had objections versus conditions. What were the differences between the two? And the mind and the theory behind an objection and where and when should an objection be handled? And then the last webinar, we went over 20 different objections that are given and what are their responses. And again, I tell you, you don't have to say it verbatim. You say it in your own style, with your own words, the way you are, but the content has to be delivered. The content. And I'm going against my coach, you gotta say it verbatim, and if you don't say it verbatim, if you haven't practiced enough, that is all true and correct. But you know what? I've learned that people have their own personalities, their own way of saying things. So do it. It sounds a lot better. You're not gonna sound like me. I'm not gonna sound like you. But at the end of the day, when somebody asks me, how come you're calling me so early in the morning? I say, hey, look, you know what? It is early in the morning and I'm calling you, but if I had your house for sale, would you want me to start really early trying to find a buyer for it? Okay? That's the way I say it. You say it whichever way you say it, but at the end of the day, you gotta tell them that you work hard to get a buyer for those properties that you've listed, and you're working to get them sold. In your own words, the guy who asked me, why are you asking so many questions? These are common objections. Why are you asking so many questions? Well, you know why? Yeah, I am asking you so many questions, but how else would I know how to best sell your property if I didn't ask you these questions? So you see, you've got to learn how to say it. Going back to the attorney, hey, Raul, we talking to you for half hour, and I don't know why, but I hung up on every realtor that calls me. Okay? There's a reason for that. Anyhow, if you like the workshops, they're short, you know, they're meaningful. Our webinars are meant to teach you how to sell real estate, you know, get a clear mindset. Go ahead, do it. Just sign up with Angela at securitytitlesfl.com. If you know, as you know, these webinars are for free. All I ask, if you're working on a deal, send it my way. You know, you've got the name of the company, the address, it's what you need to put on the contract. Email it to orders@securitytitlesfl.com, and if you have a question, if you wanna, you know, run something by me, or you're working on a deal and you want my opinion on it, just, call me, feel free to call me. 305-772-4932. So you want to sign up for the next one, December the 5th? You know, how we're gonna implement this business plan? You know, go ahead, ask for Angela at securitytitlesfl.com. You know, ask. And, and if you want a copy of this webinar, just, go ahead, scan it, you know, and we'll send you a copy. That way you can listen to it on your phone a couple of times, and if you have any questions on your developing your business plan, just give me a call.